Have you ever imagined a pope arriving at the Vatican and, within just a few days, turning everything upside down? Well, Pope Leo XIV didn't come to keep the Catholic Church as it always was. He's ready to shake up the foundations, challenge traditions, and open doors that many thought would never open. For those who have faith, who live spirituality, and seek to understand Christianity in its purest form, this kind of revolution might seem almost unbelievable, maybe even controversial. But what no one can deny is that, after so many scandals and crises, the call for transparency, genuine prayer, and pastoral mission has never been more urgent. This is where the Pope steps in, introducing measures that promise to restore the Church's credibility and renew worship and praise in every corner of the world, bringing young Christians and faithful of all ages into the heart of this movement. The gospel isn't just words, it's action, real transformation. And Pope Leo XIV wants to prove that through decisions that will change history. So, in this video, we'll uncover the first 5 actions Pope Leo XIV has taken to reform the Catholic Church. You might not know all the details yet, but it's essential to understand these steps to strengthen our faith and follow this transformation. And to support this divine mission, write in the comments, "Lord, guide Pope Leo XIV's reform." A simple act of faith that can invite blessings. Now, let's discover together what the new Pope is doing to renew the Church. Curious about these 5 actions that are already stirring the heart of the Church, and maybe even your own faith? Stay with me. It's funny how sometimes God chooses the unlikely to do the greatest works. And that's exactly what happened when Leo XIV took the helm of the Church. No one, absolutely no one, expected that man, seemingly quiet, to begin his papacy so boldly, shaking the very core of religion, spirituality, and the Church's mission in the world. As soon as the inaugural sermon ended, one thing was clear to everyone there: this would not be an ordinary pope. The faith of the believers was immediately stirred, not by doubt, but by hope that, finally, the gospel would be at the center of everything again, just as in the days of Jesus Christ. It was as if a fresh wind blew through the halls of the Vatican, sweeping away the heavy odors of bureaucracy and bringing the fragrance of true worship, sincere prayer, and humble service. And see, those who followed the Church closely, the backstage of worship, young Christians, Bible scholars, noticed right away that something unprecedented was happening. Even the most veteran cardinals, used to unchanging liturgy and the weight of tradition, couldn't hide their surprise. It was like the Holy Spirit itself was taking charge, saying, "Enough now. It's time for change." To give you an idea, on the very day of his inauguration, rumors started swirling that Pope Leo XIV had canceled formal protocol meetings to meet. Guess with whom? Missionaries, the poor, religious living on the front lines, far from the spotlight but close to those who suffer the most. This caused quite a stir, my friend, and rightly so. After all, who expected a pontiff whose first concern was not the great and powerful but the little ones? Who expected practical faith, living testimony, and everyday spirituality to take precedence over grand speeches full of pomp? And this was just the beginning. You see, when the Christian world thought it had seen it all, along came Leo XIV. And no one, absolutely no one, was prepared for what was about to happen. Barely had he set foot on Peter's throne, when the new pope started breaking protocols, challenging customs, and turning the game inside the Vatican itself. This move left not only the faithful but also the Church's veterans completely stunned. Imagine waking up for your devotional prayer, opening your Bible, checking the morning news, and finding a pope making decisions no one expected. It's as if the Holy Spirit blew fiercely, showing that when it's time to do God's will, there's no comfort zone, no chains, no fear. And believe me, it wasn't a small thing. While many expected a typical slow start, with pretty speeches, formal blessings, and some ceremonies, Leo XIV surprised everyone. His spirituality seemed to overflow in every gesture, and his very first words made it clear: this papacy will be no more of the same. And between us, that sparked a flame of hope in the hearts of many young Christians, whole families, and even those who had drifted away from the Church, feeling cold in their faith. After all, who doesn't feel touched when they realize religion can truly be alive, dynamic, and filled with real transformation? But don't think it was just a powerful speech. Not at all. The action was concrete, swift, and for many, even shocking. Leo XIV showed from the start that he wasn't there to manage old customs but to live, and help others live, the true gospel. Yes, the gospel Jesus Christ preached, simple, direct, challenging, and deeply mission-focused. And this, my friend, shook the very foundations of the Vatican, the Church, the faithful, and even those who had drifted away from a life of prayer. And believe me, what comes next is even more surprising. No one expected Pope Leo XIV's early days to bring such a whirlwind inside the Church. For centuries, the Vatican followed a predictable path, where a new pope usually walked the same rails left by his predecessors. But that's not what happened. From the very beginning, Leo XIV made it clear he wasn't there just to preserve traditions, but to reform, transform, and above all, rekindle the flame of faith, spirituality, and the gospel. Imagine this. Even the most seasoned members of the Curia, accustomed to decades of protocols and formalities, found themselves completely speechless. It was as if a strong wind blew through, sweeping away centuries of dust and stale habits. Now, my friend, don't think this was met with applause and cheers. Far from it. For many, especially those attached to the old power structures, it felt like an insult, almost an earthquake shaking the sacred walls of the Vatican. But for those who live the Bible, breathe authentic Christianity, and understand that the Church of Jesus Christ is not a museum of traditions, but a hospital for souls and a school of faith, it all made perfect sense. And it wasn't just a cosmetic or rhetorical change. It was a genuine call to return to the roots of the gospel, to devotional practices, to sincere praise and true worship. And between us, that gives you a lot to think about, doesn't it? How many times in our own spiritual journey do we get comfortable, cling to forms and customs, and forget what really matters? How often do we attend services, join Bible studies, sing in worship, yet deep down, the flame of faith is barely flickering? What Leo XIV was doing felt like that powerful sermon that shakes everyone awake. The young Christians, the elders, the clergy, even those who had wandered far from the Church. A divine shake-up. And if you think that was all, get ready, because his very first practical decision was even more astonishing. So, my brothers and sisters, while the whole world was still trying to make sense of this new wind blowing through the Vatican, Leo XIV did something no one, absolutely no one, could have imagined. Amid so many influential cardinals, renowned bishops, and established names in Vatican diplomacy, he chose a man practically forgotten in the halls of the Church. A name many had put aside, Cardinal Robert Sarah. Yes, you heard that right. The world watched in shock as Pope Leo XIV not only called Robert Sarah back to the center of decision-making, but also appointed him to a position unprecedented in modern church history. A role that breaks every old structure, a calling beyond mere administration. It was, in truth, a spiritual, prophetic, almost apostolic mission. And why? Because Sarah represents exactly what many no longer want to hear: a church returning to its roots, embracing sacrifice, prayer, fasting, silent worship, and standing for truth, no matter the cost. And you know what that means. It means that when everyone thought he was forgotten, God was simply hiding, preparing, shaping him. Because that's how God works, my brother, my sister. The Lord often allows us to be placed in the shadows, not as punishment, but as preparation. And when the right time comes, when it comes, no one can stop the plans of the Most High. And this choice wasn't just a message for the Vatican. It was a clear sign for you, for me, and for every Christian feeling discouraged, thinking God has forgotten them. Listen carefully, because this isn't just an administrative act, not just a political move within the Church. No. What happened goes far beyond that. What we're seeing is a prophetic call, a true warning from heaven. By choosing Cardinal Robert Sarah, Pope Leo XIV wanted to do much more than shuffle positions. He wanted to wake the Church up. He wanted to shake believers all over the world. You know why? Because we live in times when many want a shallow, comfortable faith, molded by the whims of the world. And the mission given to Sarah is the exact opposite. It's a call to spiritual battle, radical faithfulness to the gospel, the courage to say yes to God and no to sin, relativism, lukewarmness, and the quiet apostasy sneaking even onto the altars. And when God raises someone like this, it's not just to change church history. It's also to change your story. That's a clear sign for you and me, a reminder that heaven still expects much from us. That we cannot grow complacent. That it's time to wake up, stand up, put on the armor of faith, and return to the essentials: prayer, penance, worship, the rosary in hand, and our hearts fixed on heaven. In the next part, I'll reveal what this gesture means within the context of ancient prophecies, and why many are already saying the church has entered a new era. From afar, some might be fooled. After all, Robert Serra doesn't look anything like the traditional big names of the Roman Curia. No luxury, no vanity, no flattery. His gaze holds the calm of someone who lives in prayer, in worship, in deep spirituality and intimate communion with Jesus Christ. And here's what hits hardest: he never sold out to the power game. Never. He always chose to stand on the edges of faith, beside the poor, the forgotten, those invisible to the eyes of the world but precious in God's sight. And don't think this went unnoticed by the high hierarchy. Not at all. Sarah has always been a thorn in the side of those wanting a more modern church, more flexible on moral issues, more in tune with the winds of the world. But guess what? He never gave in. He has always stood firm on what the Bible teaches, a prophetic voice inside the very walls of the church. A fierce defender of true worship, genuine prayer, Bible study, and devotional life, Sarah embodies the kind of Christian who won't bargain away their faith. Here's something curious. While many cardinals chased influence and prestige, Sarah preferred spending hours before the Blessed Sacrament. While some sought applause, he chose silence, fasting, the rosary, and prayer. While others tried to bend to trends, he clung tightly to the Word, the Gospel, the crucified Christ. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real reason he was chosen. God is still searching for men like that. And this isn't where it ends. What comes next will shake the church's foundations even more, and perhaps yours as well. When the announcement came, silence filled the room. Journalists, theologians, cardinals. No one could believe what they were hearing. Robert Serra, the same man who was criticized, persecuted, even sidelined for standing firm? Yes, the very same. Pope Leo XIV, moved by a discernment many called inspired by the Holy Spirit, made a decision no one in the Vatican dared even imagine. He broke protocol, ignored internal and external pressures, and shocked the whole world. And don't think it was an easy choice. Far from it. It was an act of courage, faith, and maybe a prophetic shout amid the Church's internal chaos. The Pope knew he was shaking deep structures, challenging interests, breaking power cycles that had dragged on for decades. That's why this decision became even more powerful, symbolic, and heavy with spiritual meaning. It was as if God was telling the world, there is still hope. There are still faithful men. There are still those who fight for the truth. And, between you and me, it's hard not to feel moved by that. Because, deep down, this decision isn't just about the Church's future. It's about our future, about our own spiritual lives. It's a call, a wake-up, a divine shake-up, reminding us that no matter what happens in the world, God is still in control. And believe me, what comes next will hit you even harder because now the consequences are beginning to show. No sooner was the announcement made than the effects spread like wildfire. Some cardinals rose in outrage, others bowed their heads in silence, realizing they were witnessing a watershed moment in church history. The world's press went into a frenzy. Headlines screamed, "Revolution at the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV defies all, Robert Serra, the unexpected guardian of faith." It was a true spiritual and institutional earthquake. And don't think this stayed just in the Vatican corridors. No. The impact was felt in parishes, monasteries, and dioceses all over the world. The faithful were divided. Some wept with joy, others wondered, what now? What will become of the Church? Bishops began re-examining their stances. Priests, once complacent, were forced to reflect, are we truly faithful to the mission Christ gave us? It was like a bright light suddenly shone on everything hidden in the shadows. You know those moments when God pulls the rug out, revealing everything swept under it? That's exactly what happened. And if you think it's over, get ready. Because what's coming in the next part will show you that this decision by the Pope was not just institutional, it's deeply spiritual, and it reaches right into your life, wherever you are now. Not everyone welcomed it, of course. After all, every big change stirs resistance, especially in an institution as old as the Catholic Church. Many within the Curia saw the creation of the Council of the Peripheries as a direct challenge to their traditions and accumulated power. It was like a fresh breeze of spirituality shaking the dusty Vatican furniture, and some didn't like that wind one bit. But more than political struggles, this resistance reflected a deep spiritual conflict. The Pope and his new council weren't interested in keeping privileges. They wanted to give a voice to those long forgotten, the poor, the marginalized, the young Christians living faith in daily life, away from palace lights. This paradigm shift touched the heart of religion, spirituality, and Jesus Christ's evangelical mission. It was a call to true worship and praise, not empty rituals or the status quo. If you, reading this, have ever felt the discomfort of questioning a tradition or challenging a system that seemed unchangeable, you know exactly what I mean. These inner battles are, at their core, a struggle between true faith that spreads the gospel and the hold of power that keeps people trapped. Speaking of which, Pope Leo XIV's next move will show us that the power and structure of the Church are about to face a transformation unlike anything we've seen before. Curious? Then stay with me. Pope Leo XIV's decision wasn't just a strike against bureaucracy, it was a true spiritual revolution. He prioritized the invisible Church, the silent, faithful community working at the grassroots level, away from the spotlight, in the poorer neighborhoods, small parishes, and in the hearts of young believers. This Church, often forgotten by the official structures, is the one keeping the gospel alive every day with vibrant faith and inspiring witness. It's a powerful shift in thinking. Ecclesiastical power moves from being a fragile house of cards held by clerical elites to fertile ground for genuine spirituality, heartfelt praise, and worship that changes lives. The Pope shows us that true Christianity isn't found on golden thrones, but in the simple, devotional acts that touch the heart. Think about it. How many times does the Bible show Jesus speaking with fishermen, simple women, children? This is the Church that needs to be celebrated. You can apply this teaching in your own life by valuing small Bible study groups, joining community worship, or simply living your faith authentically in your daily routine. You don't need grand titles to make a difference. What matters is a sincere commitment to spirituality, prayer, and the Christian mission. And there's more coming. Get ready for the next chapter of this transformative journey. Imagine the shock for many inside the Church when Pope Leo XIV declared he would no longer live in the apostolic palace. At first glance, a simple decision, but one full of deep, revolutionary meaning. By choosing to live in the Domus Sancti Marthi, a modest residence within the Vatican, he clearly shows humility and a commitment to practical spirituality, far from the luxury and formality that have long marked papal history. This choice directly impacts the Church's culture because Jesus himself taught us the value of simplicity and humble service. Instead of an inaccessible leader in grand chambers, the Pope presents himself as a close, available, and compassionate shepherd who shares daily life with God's people. For young Christians and the faithful who follow the gospel, this decision offers a valuable lesson. True leadership in religion is about example and real presence, not about displayed power. If you want to deepen your spirituality and live a more authentic faith, start by embracing simple habits in your routine. Let go of pride, practice detachment, and make prayer a genuine moment of meeting God, just as the Pope inspires. And speaking of transformation, the next step he took in his pontificate shakes the very structure of power and transparency in the Church. You won't want to miss it. What once symbolized power and exclusivity, the Apostolic Palace, is beginning to transform under Pope Leo XIV's leadership into a place for gathering, dialogue, and spiritual formation. This decision is more than a physical change. It's an invitation for the Church to truly open itself to the world, especially to those seeking faith sincerely and wanting to deepen their Bible study. The palace becomes a site for spiritual retreats, praise meetings, and worship moments that bring together believers from all over the globe. It's as if the heart of the Church has begun beating to a different rhythm, leaving behind formalism and embracing the vitality of young Christians, missionaries, and all who live the gospel in practice. Imagine attending a service or seminar there, where the walls have already heard the prayers of saints and now welcome new voices bearing witness to faith. This is a concrete way to strengthen community spirituality and revitalize worship on every level, creating a church that is more alive and close. In your life, this transformation might reflect in how you value spiritual meeting spaces, whether it's a prayer group, Bible study, or even your own home, which can become a true palace of prayer and praise. Spiritual growth happens where there is communion and openness, and this change lays the groundwork for another major decision in the pontificate, one that shakes the core of Vatican administration. In an unprecedented move, Pope Leo XIV broke a silence that lasted decades by publicly releasing detailed Vatican and administrative expenses. This decision is not just administrative. It's a practical sermon on transparency, honesty, and accountability within the Church. Faith, the Bible, and the Gospel teach us the importance of truth and integrity, and here we have a living example of how these virtues translate into real actions. For many young Christians and believers, this attitude brings a breath of hope in times of scandal and mistrust. Imagine attending worship services and Bible studies where the Word isn't just spoken, but truly lived out, including in how finances are managed. This movement opens the door to a fresh kind of spirituality, one where praise and worship walk hand in hand with responsibility and moral commitment. If you want to bring this into your own life, start by practicing transparency in your relationships and personal finances, a simple step that strengthens faith and trust in the gospel. This decision marks a turning point, but it doesn't stop there. Soon after, the Pope will take another bold step to deepen this path of transparency by creating an independent council that will forever change how the Church handles its finances. Can you imagine what's coming next? In a move few expected, Pope Leo XIV establishes a financial council made up of lay economists and auditors, including women, a true milestone in Christian history and Vatican administration. This decision sends a clear message. The Church must renew itself not only in spirituality and worship, but also in management, embracing transparency, ethics, and participation from everyone. It's an invitation for faith to be expressed through real actions, especially in areas often clouded by secrecy and mistrust. For those who follow religion and Bible study, this choice highlights a new paradigm. Lay participation, men and women alike, in building the Church, reinforcing the spirit of community and worship Jesus Christ so deeply taught. The Council's mission is to oversee expenses, publish annual reports, and ensure that the Church's praise and prayer go hand in hand with integrity and accountability. In your own life, this could mean stepping up to take an active role in decisions and responsibilities within your community, whether by helping with your local church's finances or supporting social projects. This council isn't just an administrative body. It's a powerful symbol of change and hope, strengthening the Church's credibility and encouraging a living, authentic spirituality that embraces and honors every witness of faith. And the restoration of trust doesn't end here. The next decision by Pope Leo XIV will bring even greater impact to the Church's moral authority. Are you ready to discover the next step in this quiet revolution? After years shadowed by financial scandals and deep mistrust, Pope Leo XIV takes a decisive step to restore the Church's moral authority, renewing the faith and hope of believers. This restoration isn't built on words or sermons alone, but on concrete, transparent actions aligned with the teachings of the Bible and the spirituality Jesus Christ gave us. The Church once again becomes a place where praise, prayer, and worship are woven together with responsibility and integrity, creating a space of trust for young Christians and all who seek a true testimony of faith. It's a time to reflect on the power of transparency and honesty in our own lives and communities. Just as the Pope acts to make the Church a living example of the gospel, each of us can strengthen our devotional and spiritual walk by practicing sincerity in our relationships, work, and worship. The Church, at its roots, gains new strength when it reconnects with the people and embraces its pastoral mission with humility, breaking away from practices that drive the faithful away and damage the religion's credibility. But don't think this renewal is temporary. It begins a true quiet revolution that will transform how faith, spirituality, and the Church's mission are lived in the world. And to fully understand the impact of this revolution, we need to look ahead to what the Pope still has to reveal. Pope Leo XIV's pontificate is making it clear he's not here to maintain the status quo, but to lead a deep, necessary transformation within the Catholic Church. He moves forward with conviction, knowing that faith, prayer, and the gospel must be instruments of spiritual, structural, and pastoral renewal. His early actions reveal a leader who understands the importance of renewing worship and adoration not just in words, but in practices that touch the lives of believers, from young Christians to the elderly, rekindling the true spirit of Christianity. This quiet revolution doesn't announce itself with loud cries, but with concrete gestures: the empowerment of the laity, financial transparency, care for the outskirts, and simplicity in the papal residence, that strengthen the spirituality of the invisible Church, the one working at the heart of communities. In your daily life, we can learn that true transformation doesn't happen overnight, but through small decisions, acts of praise and worship, sermons, and Bible studies that feed faith and inspire real actions in the world. And so, without fanfare, Pope Leo XIV invites us into a new era of spiritual vigilance, where every devotional, every prayer, and every testimony of faith become foundational stones for rebuilding the Church. What could come next? The story is just beginning, and there's much more to uncover. Now that you know the first 5 steps Pope Leo XIV is taking to reform the Catholic Church, it's clear the real change begins within each of us. Are you ready to bring your faith to life, dive deeper into Bible study, and strengthen your spirituality through daily prayer and worship? Think about this. How can your witness of faith impact your family, your friends, and even the young Christians around you? What can you do today to become a part of that transformation? Maybe it's joining worship more actively, setting aside time for honest devotion, or getting involved in helping those most vulnerable in your community. The Church is changing, and it needs people willing to live out Christianity with courage and love, not just in sermons, but in everyday life. How about being one of those faithful who make a real difference? So, are you ready for this journey of faith? If you want to keep learning about spirituality, the gospel, and the movements renewing the Church, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The next message might be just the spark you need to deepen and transform your walk with Jesus Christ. Shall we walk together?